The morning light filters through the small window of the stone house, casting gentle shadows across the smooth, worn floor. The boy opens his eyes slowly, feeling the warmth of the woolen blanket that his mother wove with her own hands. The threads are soft against his skin, carrying the faint scent of lavender that she pressed between the folds. He lies still for a moment, listening to the quiet sounds of the awakening city beyond these thick walls. His name is Alexios, and he is 7 years old. The stone beneath him is cool and familiar, polished by countless feet over many years. His small fingers trace the grain of the wooden bed frame, feeling each gentle curve and imperfection. The wood is olive, cut from the groves that stretch beyond the city walls, and it carries within it the memory of sun and wind. Through the window, he can hear the soft murmur of voices as neighbors begin their day. There is no urgency in these sounds, no rushing or shouting. The voices blend together like a gentle stream, flowing through the early morning air. A woman's laugh drifts up from the courtyard below, warm and musical. Somewhere, a child is singing a simple tune, the notes rising and falling like a lullaby. The boy stretches his arms above his head, feeling the pleasant pull of muscles that are still soft with sleep. His mother has left a small clay cup of water beside his bed, and he drinks slowly, tasting the coolness on his tongue. The water was drawn from the well in the center of their neighborhood, deep and pure, carrying the taste of earth and stone. He rises quietly, his bare feet touching the floor with practiced silence. The house is small but filled with gentle light. His mother is already awake, preparing the morning meal in the kitchen. He can hear the soft scraping of the wooden spoon against the clay bowl, the whisper of grain being ground between stones. The smell of barley bread fills the air, mixing with the scent of dried herbs that hang from the rafters. "Good morning, little one," his mother says without turning around. She always knows when he is awake, as if she can sense his presence in the quiet spaces of their home. Her voice is like honey, smooth and golden, carrying all the love she holds for him. He moves to her side, and she places a warm hand on his shoulder. Her fingers are gentle but strong, shaped by years of weaving and cooking and caring. She has prepared his breakfast with the same patient care she gives to everything. Barley mixed with goat's milk, sweetened with a touch of honey from the hives that rest in the hills above the city. They eat together in comfortable silence, the only sounds the soft clink of clay bowls and the distant call of birds outside. The food is simple but nourishing, warming his belly and filling him with quiet contentment. His mother's eyes are kind as she watches him eat, and sometimes she reaches out to smooth his dark hair with her fingers. After breakfast, she helps him dress in his simple tunic, the fabric soft from many washings. She ties the belt at his waist with gentle hands, adjusting the length so he can move freely. The tunic is the color of earth, brown and humble, but it fits him perfectly and carries the scent of the olive oil soap she uses to wash their clothes. "Today you will train with the other boys," she tells him, her voice carrying both pride and tenderness. "Remember to listen with your whole heart and to move with the grace of the wind through the olive trees." He nods, understanding that training is not about fighting or competing, but about learning to move his body with purpose and quiet strength. The boys of Sparta learn together, supporting one another, finding harmony in shared effort. His mother walks with him to the edge of their small courtyard, where the morning sun has warmed the stone steps. She kneels to his level and looks into his eyes, her own reflecting the deep blue of the sky. "Be gentle with yourself and with others," she whispers, pressing a soft kiss to his forehead. "Strength comes from peace, not from anger. Remember this always." He walks through the narrow streets toward the training ground, his sandals making soft sounds against the smooth stones. The city is waking slowly around him, like a gentle giant stretching in the morning light. Women are drawing water from wells, their voices creating a soft chorus of greetings and gentle laughter. Children play quietly in doorways, their games simple and filled with imagination. The training ground is a wide space surrounded by olive trees, their silver-green leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. The earth here is worn smooth by many feet, soft and yielding. Other boys are already gathering, their faces bright with the pleasure of seeing friends again. They range in age from 6 to 12, all learning together, the older ones helping the younger with patient kindness. Their instructor is a man named Lysander, whose hair is touched with silver, but whose eyes are warm and encouraging. He moves with the fluid grace of someone who has spent years learning to be at peace with his own strength. He greets each boy by name, placing a gentle hand on their shoulders, making them feel valued and seen. "Today we will practice moving like the wind," Lysander says, his voice carrying easily across the training ground. The wind does not fight against the trees, but flows around them, finding the easiest path. It is strong not because it pushes, but because it knows how to bend and flow. The boys begin to move, following Lysander's gentle guidance. They stretch their arms like branches, feeling the imaginary wind move through their fingers. They step lightly, practicing the art of silent movement, learning to place their feet with care and consciousness. There is no competition here, no winning or losing, only the joy of moving together in harmony. Alexios closes his eyes and feels the warm sun on his face, the gentle breeze lifting his hair. He imagines himself as water flowing over rocks, finding the smoothest path, adapting to every obstacle with grace and patience. His body feels light and strong, connected to the earth beneath his feet and the sky above his head. The morning passes like a gentle dream. The boys practice with wooden swords, but the focus is on balance and grace rather than force. They learn to hold the weight of the weapon with relaxed shoulders, to move with economy and purpose. Lysander reminds them again and again that true strength comes from inner peace, not from the desire to dominate others. A warrior who is at peace with himself has no need to prove his strength, he tells them, his voice soft, but carrying across the training ground. He moves with confidence because he knows who he is, not because he needs others to fear him. When the sun reaches its highest point, the boys rest in the shade of the olive trees. They share water from clay jugs, passing them around with careful attention to each other's needs. Some of the older boys tell gentle stories about heroes who won their battles through cleverness and compassion rather than violence. The younger ones listen with wide eyes, learning that courage comes in many forms. Alexios lies on his back, looking up through the olive branches at the blue sky beyond. The leaves create shifting patterns of light and shadow on his face, and he feels deeply peaceful. Around him, the other boys are resting too, their voices a gentle murmur like the sound of a distant stream. Later that afternoon, the training ends, and the boys walk home together through the quiet streets. Alexios says goodbye to his friends at the corner, where their paths diverge, each heading toward their own family's welcoming door. The air is cooling now, and the light is beginning to turn golden, painting the stone buildings with warm colors. When he reaches home, his mother is waiting in the courtyard, working on her loom. The threads are deep blue and cream, and she works with steady, meditative movements, creating beauty with her patient hands. She looks up as he approaches, her face brightening with the joy of seeing him return safely. "How was your day, my son?" she asks, patting the stone bench beside her. He sits close to her, feeling the warmth of her presence and the security of being home. He tells her about the training, about learning to move like the wind, about the stories the older boys shared. She listens with her whole attention, nodding and asking gentle questions that show she understands the deeper meaning of what he is learning. "You are growing wise as well as strong," she tells him, and her words fill him with quiet pride. "Remember that wisdom and strength are gifts to be shared, not hoarded. The greatest warriors are those who protect what they love, not those who seek to conquer." As evening approaches, she prepares their meal with the same careful attention she gives to everything. The food is simple: bread, olives, cheese made from goat's milk, and vegetables from their small garden. But it is prepared with love, and they eat together as the light fades outside their window. After dinner, his mother lights a small oil lamp, and they sit together as she tells him stories of their ancestors. These are not tales of battles and conquest. but stories of ordinary people who lived with courage and kindness, who faced challenges with grace and wisdom. Her voice is like a gentle river, carrying him toward sleep with its steady, soothing rhythm. "Your great-grandfather was a shepherd," she tells him, her fingers combing through his hair. "He spent his days in the hills above the city, watching over his flocks, learning to read the weather in the movement of clouds and the behavior of birds. He was known for his gentle hands and his wise heart. People came from far away to ask his advice, because he understood that all living things are connected." The boy's eyes grow heavy as he listens, his head resting against his mother's shoulder. The oil lamp flickers gently, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the city has grown quiet, settling into the peaceful rhythm of night. She carries him to his bed, tucking the soft woolen blanket around him with tender care. The lamp burns low on the small table beside his bed, creating a warm circle of light in the darkness. His mother sits beside him for a while, her hand resting lightly on his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. "Sleep well, my brave boy," she whispers, her voice barely audible above the soft night sounds outside. "Tomorrow will bring new lessons, new friends, new opportunities to grow in wisdom and strength. But for now, rest. Let your dreams be peaceful and your heart be light." He drifts toward sleep, surrounded by the familiar scents and sounds of home. The stone walls hold him safely, the woolen blanket wraps him in warmth, and his mother's love surrounds him like a gentle shield against all the uncertainties of the world. In his dreams, he is running through fields of olive trees, his feet light on the soft earth, his heart full of joy and peace. The wind carries him forward, and he knows that he is exactly where he belongs, in this moment, in this place, held by love and growing toward the light. 10 years have passed like seasons flowing into one another, each bringing its own gentle lessons. Alexios is now 17, his shoulders broader, his voice deeper, but his eyes still hold the same quiet peace that his mother nurtured in him as a child. The stone walls of his home have witnessed his growth, each year marking subtle changes in the young man who still wakes with the same gentle reverence for the morning light. Today is different, though the difference sits quietly in the air like the first hint of autumn in late summer. Through the small window, the same golden light filters across the floor. But today, it illuminates a simple pack resting beside his bed, a worn leather satchel that belonged to his father, filled with the few possessions he will carry into his years of training away from home. The morning air carries the familiar sense of home. The lavender his mother still weaves into his blankets, the olive oil burning in the small lamp, the barley bread rising in the kitchen. But there is something more in the air today, a tenderness that speaks of endings and beginnings, of love that must learn to stretch across distance. Alexios sits up slowly, his bare feet finding the cool stone floor. The house is already awake around him, filled with the gentle sounds of his mother preparing for this day they have both known would come. He can hear her moving in the kitchen, but her steps are slower today, more deliberate, as if she is savoring each familiar gesture. He dresses with the same care he has learned to bring to all things. The simple tunic, now larger to fit his grown frame, the leather sandals that will carry him on new paths. His fingers work slowly with the belt at his waist, each movement mindful and present. The morning light catches the small bronze amulet his mother gave him on his 16th birthday, a simple piece bearing the olive branch of peace warm against his chest. When he enters the kitchen, his mother is standing with her back to him, stirring honey into a clay bowl. Her hair, now touched with silver like moonlight on water, is braided with the same care she has always given to everything in their home. She turns as he enters, and her smile is like sunrise, tinged with the gold of joy and the soft shadows of letting go. "My son," she says, and her voice carries all the love of 17 years distilled into these simple words. "Today you begin a new chapter of your story." They sit together at the wooden table that has been the center of their shared meals for so many years. The food is the same as always, barley bread, honey, goat's milk cheese, olives from the groves beyond the city. But today, each bite carries the weight of memory, the sweetness of knowing that the next time they share a meal, he will have stories to tell of places she has not seen, of lessons learned in solitude and silence. His mother's hands are steady as she pours the warm milk into his cup, but he notices the way she lingers, the way her fingers trace the rim of the clay vessel as if memorizing its shape. They eat in comfortable silence. The only sounds the soft clink of clay against wood, the distant call of birds greeting the morning, the gentle rhythm of the city waking around them. "Tell me about the mountains," he says softly, wanting to hear her voice, to carry the sound of it with him when he goes. She smiles, her eyes growing distant as she remembers. "They are ancient and patient," she says, her voice taking on the dreamy quality it holds when she tells stories. "They have watched over our city for countless generations, keeping their own counsel, holding their own peace. The air there is thin and clean, carrying the scent of pine and stone. At night, the stars are so bright they seem close enough to touch." He listens with his whole attention, storing each word like a treasure. She tells him about the wind that moves through the high places, about the way sound carries differently in the mountain air, about the silence that can teach a man to hear his own heart more clearly. "Your grandfather trained there," she continues, her fingers tracing patterns on the wooden table. "He told me that the mountains strip away everything that is not essential, leaving only what is true. You will learn things there that cannot be taught within these walls. Important things about who you are when no one is watching, about what remains when everything familiar is taken away." After breakfast, she helps him pack the few remaining items: an extra tunic, a warm cloak woven from wool, a small knife that had belonged to his father. Each item is placed with ceremony, her hands lingering on the familiar textures, blessing them with her touch. "This was your father's," she says, holding up a small wooden cup, carved from olive wood and polished smooth by years of use. "He drank from it every morning, and it carried him through many difficult days. Water tastes different from a cup that has been loved, sweeter somehow, more nourishing." She wraps the cup carefully in a piece of soft linen, placing it in the center of the pack where it will be safe. He watches her hands move with their familiar grace, memorizing the way she cares for even the smallest things, the way she imbues ordinary objects with meaning and love. The morning passes like a gentle dream. They walk together through the house, and she shows him things he has seen 1,000 times, but never really noticed. The way the light falls across the loom in the afternoon, the small garden where she grows herbs for healing, the stone steps worn smooth by the feet of his family across many generations. In the courtyard, she shows him the place where his father carved their names into the stone when they were first married. The letters are soft now, gentled by weather and time, but still visible to those who know where to look. She traces the shapes with her finger, and he sees the girl she must have been, full of dreams and hope for the future. "Love leaves marks," she says softly. "Not scars, but gentle traces that become part of the landscape of our hearts. You will carry these marks with you wherever you go, and they will remind you of who you are and where you come from." As the sun reaches its highest point, other young men begin to gather in the square, where they will meet their guide. Alexios can see them from the window. Boys he has known since childhood, now grown into young men like himself, all preparing to take this same journey into the unknown. Some are embracing their mothers, others standing quietly with their fathers, all marking this threshold between the life they have known and the life that awaits them. His mother prepares a final meal: bread and cheese wrapped in clean linen, dried fruit and nuts, a small jar of honey. "For your first night away," she says, "so you will have something from home to comfort you." She sits beside him on the stone bench where they have shared so many quiet moments, her hand resting gently on his arm. The sun is warm on their faces, and the olive trees in the courtyard rustle with the same gentle sound they have made throughout his childhood. I want you to remember something, she says, her voice soft but clear. Strength is not the absence of gentleness, but the presence of it. The mountains will test you in ways you cannot imagine, but they will also teach you. Listen to them with the same attention you have learned to give to small things here at home. She reaches into her robes and pulls out a small object wrapped in silk, a smooth stone, perfectly round, worn by countless years in a mountain stream. This came from the place where you will train, she says, placing it in his palm. Your father brought it to me when he returned from his own time in the mountains. It will help you remember that even the hardest stone can be made smooth by patience and time. The stone is warm from her touch, and he closes his fingers around it, feeling its perfect smoothness. It fits in his palm as if it were made for him, carrying within it the weight of history and hope, the memory of his father's journey, and the promise of his own. They sit together in the quiet courtyard, surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of home. The sun moves slowly across the sky, and they both know that time is flowing toward the moment when he must leave. But for now, they rest in the sweetness of being together, mother and son, connected by bonds that distance cannot break. Tell me what you hope for, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. He considers the question, feeling the weight of it, the importance of naming his deepest desires. I hope to become the kind of man who brings peace wherever he goes, he says finally. I want to be strong enough to protect what matters, gentle enough to nurture what is fragile, wise enough to know the difference. She nods, her eyes bright with unshed tears that speak of pride rather than sorrow. You already are that man, she tells him. The mountains will simply help you see it more clearly. As the afternoon light begins to slant through the olive trees, they hear the sound of footsteps in the street outside. The other young men gathering, their voices low and respectful, aware that this is a sacred time for all of them. Alexios rises slowly, shouldering his pack, feeling the weight of it settle comfortably against his back. His mother stands with him, her hands reaching up to cup his face as she did when he was small. Her palms are warm against his cheeks, and he can see his own reflection in her eyes. The boy he was, the man he is becoming, all held together in her loving gaze. Remember, she whispers, you carry within you all the love and wisdom of your ancestors. You are never truly alone, no matter how far you travel or how long you are away. The roots of your spirit reach deep into this soil, and they will always call you home. They embrace, and he breathes in the scent of her hair, the familiar perfume of lavender and olive oil, and something indefinable that is simply her. Her arms are strong around him, and he feels like a child again, safe and protected, surrounded by unconditional love. But he is no longer a child, and when they part, he sees in her eyes the recognition of the man he has become, the pride she feels in who he is and who he will be. There is sadness in her gaze, but it is the sweet sadness of watching something beautiful unfold, like a flower opening its petals to the sun. Go now, she says, her voice steady despite the emotion that colors it. Go with my blessing and my love. Learn all that you can learn, become all that you can become, and then come home to me with stories to tell. He walks with her to the courtyard gate, where she stands watching as he joins the group of young men in the street. They are all quiet, all carrying their own packs, their own hopes and fears, their own memories of home and family. But there is strength in their shared purpose, comfort in knowing that they will face whatever comes together. The guide who will lead them to the mountains is an older man named Theron, whose weathered face speaks of years spent in wild places. He greets each young man with a nod, his eyes taking their measure not with judgment, but with understanding. He has made this journey many times before, shepherding young men from the safety of home to the challenging beauty of the high places. The mountains are waiting, Theron says simply, his voice carrying the authority of long experience. They have been patient, but it is time to go. Alexios turns one last time to look at his mother, standing in the doorway of their home. The afternoon light surrounds her like a gentle aureole, and she raises her hand in blessing and farewell. He lifts his own hand in response, and in that gesture passes all the love and gratitude he cannot put into words. Then he turns toward the mountains, toward the unknown, toward the next chapter of his story. His feet find the rhythm of walking. His pack settles into its familiar weight, and with each step, he carries forward the love of his mother and the wisdom of his ancestors, ready to meet whatever lessons await him in the high places where the wind speaks truth and the silence teaches patience. The city falls behind them as they walk, but it does not disappear. It remains with them, held in memory and heart, a place of return and renewal that will call them home when their learning is complete. For now, though, the path leads upward, into the mountains, into the mystery of who they will become when they have learned to listen to the wind and find their own strength in the ancient silence of stone and sky. The mountain air tastes different from the air of the city, thinner, cleaner, carrying within it the breath of ancient pines and the whisper of snow that never fully melts from the highest peaks. Alexios has been walking for 3 days now, his feet finding their rhythm on the winding path that leads ever upward, away from everything familiar and into a world where silence holds deeper meaning than words. Behind him, the city has become a distant memory, a collection of tiny lights glimpsed through breaks in the trees during their first night's rest. Ahead, the mountains rise like sleeping giants, their peaks shrouded in mist that catches the early morning light and holds it like a blessing. The path beneath his feet is worn smooth by countless generations of young men who have made this same journey, each seeking to understand what it means to be strong in the deepest sense of the word. Theron, their guide, moves with the unhurried pace of someone who has learned to trust the mountain's timing. He speaks little, but when he does, his words carry the weight of hard-won wisdom. "The mountains will teach you," he said on their first morning, "but only if you are willing to listen with more than your ears." Now, as they climb higher, the group has spread out along the trail, each young man finding his own rhythm, his own relationship with the steady upward pull of the path. Some struggle with the thinning air, others with the weight of their packs, but all continue, drawn by something deeper than duty, a desire to discover who they might become when stripped of comfort and certainty. Alexios walks in the middle of the group, his breathing steady, his mind beginning to quiet as the rhythm of walking works its ancient magic. The pack on his shoulders has become familiar, no longer a burden, but a companion, its weight distributing evenly across his frame. Inside, he can feel the gentle presence of his mother's gifts, the wooden cup, the smooth stone, the honey that carries the taste of home. The trees around them are different from the olive groves of the city. Here, tall pines stretch toward the sky, their bark rough and dark, their needles whispering secrets in the wind. Between them, shafts of golden light fall like pillars, illuminating patches of soft moss and delicate wildflowers that seem to glow with their own inner light. The air is alive with the sounds of hidden streams, the distant call of birds he has never heard before, the rustle of small creatures moving through the underbrush. As they climb, the world below begins to fade, not just in distance but in importance. The concerns that seemed so pressing in the city, the opinions of others, the small competitions and jealousies of daily life, grow lighter with each step, until they seem as insubstantial as the mist that clings to the mountain slopes. On the 4th day, they reach the training ground, a wide meadow surrounded by towering peaks, carpeted with grass so green it seems to hold the essence of spring itself. Ancient trees border the space, their trunks thick with age, their branches reaching toward the sky like arms raised in eternal supplication. At the center of the meadow stands a simple stone circle, worn smooth by weather and time, where generations of young men have gathered to learn the deeper mysteries of strength and courage. "This is where you will stay," Theron tells them, his voice carrying easily across the open space. Here you will learn to listen to the silence between your thoughts, to find strength in stillness, to understand that true power comes not from force, but from perfect balance. The young men set up their simple shelters around the meadow's edge, each finding his own space, his own relationship with the surrounding wilderness. Alexios chooses a spot near a small stream that bubbles down from the higher slopes, its water clear and cold, tasting of snow and stone and something indefinable that might be called purity. He builds his shelter with the same care his mother taught him to bring to all things, selecting each stone for the fire ring, choosing the perfect branches for the frame, arranging his few possessions with mindful attention. The work is simple but satisfying, connecting him to the earth beneath his feet and the sky above his head. As evening approaches, the young men gather around the stone circle. Theron sits with them, but he does not dominate the space. Instead, he becomes part of the circle, his presence steady and reassuring, like a tree that has weathered many storms. The fire at the center burns quietly, its flames dancing in the growing darkness, casting gentle shadows on the faces of the young men. "Tomorrow, your real training begins," Theron says, his voice soft but carrying clearly in the mountain air. "But tonight, we rest. Tonight, we listen. The mountains have been waiting for you, and they have much to teach, but they will only speak to those who have learned to be still." They eat their simple meal in comfortable silence. Bread and cheese, dried fruit and nuts, water from the stream that tastes like liquid starlight. The food is nourishing but plain, allowing them to focus on the subtle flavors, the way each bite sustains and strengthens. Around them, the forest settles into its nighttime rhythm, filled with the gentle sounds of nocturnal creatures beginning their ancient dance. After the meal, they sit in meditation, their breathing synchronized with the rhythm of the wind through the pines. Alexios closes his eyes and feels the mountain's presence around him, vast, patient, eternal. The ground beneath him is solid and supporting, the air above him infinite and free. He breathes in the scent of pine and stone, breathes out the tensions and worries he has carried without knowing. In the silence, he can hear his own heartbeat, steady and strong, echoing the rhythm of the earth itself. He can feel the presence of his companions, their quiet breathing, their shared commitment to this journey of discovery. There is no need for words here, no need for performance or pretense. They are simply young men, sitting in the presence of ancient mountains, learning to be still. Later, as the fire burns low and the stars emerge in the clear mountain sky, they retire to their shelters. Alexios lies on his simple bedroll, looking up through the opening of his shelter at the vast expanse of stars. They are brighter here than he has ever seen them. So numerous they seem to form a river of light flowing across the darkness. He thinks of his mother, asleep in their stone house far below, and sends her his love on the night wind. He thinks of his father, whom he never knew, but whose presence he feels in the cup beside his head, in the knife at his belt, in the very fact that he is here, continuing a tradition that stretches back through generations of men who sought to understand their own strength. The days that follow settle into a rhythm as natural as breathing. Each morning, they wake before dawn, their bodies gradually adjusting to the mountain schedule. They begin with meditation, sitting in the stone circle as the first light touches the peaks around them, their breathing synchronized with the awakening world. The training is unlike anything Alexios experienced in the city. Here there is no emphasis on defeating others, no competition or comparison. Instead, they learn to move with the mountain's own rhythm, to find strength in harmony rather than dominance. They practice with wooden swords, but the focus is on balance and flow, on becoming one with the weapon rather than wielding it as a tool of force. A sword is not separate from the hand that holds it, Theron teaches them, his own movements fluid and graceful despite his age. When you truly understand this, The sword becomes an extension of your will, your intention, your deepest purpose. But first, you must understand your own center, your own balance, your own stillness. They learn to move like water, flowing around obstacles rather than fighting them. They practice walking in perfect silence, their feet finding the spaces between twigs and stones, their breathing controlled and quiet. They learn to climb the rocky faces that surround the meadow, not with desperate scrambling, but with patient, methodical precision, each handhold chosen with care, each movement deliberate and sure. But perhaps the most important part of their training is the silence. Long periods each day when they sit alone, away from the group, learning to listen to the voice within themselves that speaks only when the mind is still. Alexios finds a spot high above the meadow, a natural ledge that looks out over the valley below, where he can sit for hours without distraction. In these quiet moments, he begins to understand what his mother meant when she spoke of strength coming from peace. The mountain teaches him that true power is not about forcing outcomes, but about being so centered, so balanced, that nothing can disturb his inner calm. Like the ancient pines that bend with the wind but never break, he learns to remain flexible while staying rooted in his deepest values. The weeks pass like water flowing over stones, each day bringing new insights, new understanding of himself and his place in the larger pattern of existence. He learns to read the weather in the behavior of birds, to find direction by the growth patterns of moss on trees, to understand the mountain's moods by the way the wind shifts through the passes. His body grows stronger, but more importantly, his mind grows quieter. The constant chatter of thoughts that once filled his head begins to settle, like sediment sinking to the bottom of a clear pool. In the silence that remains, he discovers a kind of awareness he has never known before, a deep listening that encompasses not just sound, but the very essence of being alive. One evening, as he sits on his ledge watching the sunset paint the peaks in shades of gold and rose, he feels a profound shift within himself. The boundary between Alexios and the mountain seems to dissolve, and for a moment, he is not a young man sitting on a rock, but part of the eternal dance of wind and stone, light and shadow, breath and silence. The feeling passes, but the memory of it remains, a touchstone he can return to whenever he needs to remember who he truly is beneath all the roles and expectations and fears. He understands now why his ancestors made this journey, why generation after generation of young men have climbed these paths to sit in this silence. As the stars emerge in the darkening sky, he makes his way back down to the meadow, where the other young men are gathering around the evening fire. They do not speak of their experiences. Some truths are too large for words. But he can see in their faces that they too have been touched by the mountain's teaching. The fire burns quietly in the center of their circle, and they sit in comfortable silence, each lost in his own thoughts, each connected to the others by the shared experience of learning to be still. Tomorrow will bring new lessons, new challenges, new opportunities to deepen their understanding. But tonight, they rest in the peace they have found, surrounded by the ancient presence of the mountains, held in the gentle embrace of silence and starlight. In the distance, a night bird calls, its voice pure and clear in the mountain air. The sound carries across the meadow and up into the peaks, where it joins the eternal song of wind and stone, of growth and change, of young men learning to find their strength in stillness and their power in peace. 3 years have passed in the mountains, 3 years of learning to listen to the silence between heartbeats, to find strength in stillness, to understand that true power flows from peace rather than force. Now, as Alexios begins his descent along the familiar path that leads back to the world below, he carries within himself a different kind of weight, not the burden of untested youth, but the quiet gravity of someone who has learned to be fully present in each moment. The morning mist clings to the mountainsides as he walks, his feet finding the ancient rhythm of the path with unconscious grace. His pack is lighter now, carrying only the essentials, but somehow he feels he bears more than when he first climbed these slopes. The wooden cup his mother gave him has become worn smooth by daily use, seasoned by mountain water and touched by countless sunrises. The stone she pressed into his palm has been his companion through long meditations, its perfect roundness a reminder that even the hardest things can be made gentle by patience and time. Behind him, the peaks rise into the clear morning air, their snow-covered summits catching the first light like beacons. He turns once to look back at the meadow, where he learned to sit in silence, where he discovered that strength and gentleness are not opposites, but partners in the dance of being fully alive. The training ground is empty now, waiting for the next group of young men who will come seeking to understand themselves. But the stone circle remains, eternal and patient, holding the memory of all who have sat within its embrace. The path down is different from the path up. 3 years ago, he climbed toward the unknown, driven by curiosity and the need to prove himself worthy of his heritage. Now he descends toward the familiar, carrying within himself the quiet certainty that comes from having touched something eternal. His breathing is steady and deep, his footsteps sure, his gaze soft but alert, taking in the subtle changes in the forest as he moves from the high places back toward the world of men. The trees gradually change as he descends, the hardy pines of the high country giving way to oak and chestnut, their leaves just beginning to show the first hints of autumn's approach. The air grows thicker, warmer, carrying on it the sense of harvest and human habitation. Somewhere in the distance, he can smell wood smoke, the earthy fragrance of freshly turned soil, the sweetness of ripening fruit. As he walks, memories of the mountains flow through his mind like water over stones. He remembers the first time he sat in perfect stillness for an entire day, watching the play of light and shadow across the valley below. He remembers the moment when he realized that his breathing and the wind through the pines had synchronized, that he had become part of the mountain's own rhythm. He remembers the night when he saw his first shooting star and understood that some things are too beautiful to grasp, too precious to possess, and that the greatest gift is simply to witness them with an open heart. The lessons of the mountains have settled into his bones now, become part of his very being. He moves with the fluid grace of someone who has learned to bend without breaking, to yield without surrendering, to find the path of least resistance that is also the path of greatest strength. His sword hangs at his side, but it feels different now. Not a weapon of conquest, but a tool of protection, an extension of his will to preserve rather than destroy. By midday, he can see the city in the distance, its whitewashed walls gleaming in the afternoon sun. The sight fills him with a complex mixture of emotions: joy at the prospect of seeing his mother again, curiosity about how the familiar will look to eyes that have been changed by solitude and silence, and a gentle sadness that this phase of his journey has come to an end. The road leading to the city gates is busier now, filled with farmers bringing their produce to market, merchants leading pack animals loaded with goods, children playing in the dust beside the path. The sounds of human activity, voices raised in greeting, the creak of cartwheels, the lowing of cattle, seem almost overwhelming after the profound quiet of the mountains. But rather than feeling jarring, these sounds settle around him like a familiar melody, welcome in their own way. He enters the city through the same gate he left 3 years ago. But everything looks different now. The buildings seem smaller somehow, more fragile, as if they might be swept away by a strong wind. The streets that once seemed so permanent now appear to be simply human constructions, temporary arrangements of stone and wood that will one day return to the earth from which they came. Yet there is beauty here too, a different kind of beauty than the stark majesty of the mountains. Here is the beauty of human endeavor, of lives lived in community, of the thousand small kindnesses that make civilization possible. An old woman waters her garden with careful attention, her movements slow but sure. A young father carries his daughter on his shoulders, her laughter bright as birdsong. A group of children share a loaf of bread, each making sure the others have enough before taking their own portion. The familiar streets lead him home with the certainty of a river flowing toward the sea. Each turn brings back memories: the corner where he used to meet his childhood friends, the fountain where his mother would send him to fetch water, the olive tree where he once sat for hours, carving his name into the bark. But these memories feel different now, touched with the gentle melancholy of someone who has learned that all things pass, that the only constant is change itself. When he finally reaches his mother's house, he stops for a moment outside the familiar gate, his hand resting on the sun-warmed stone. The courtyard beyond looks exactly as he remembers it. The same olive trees, the same stone bench, the same loom where his mother spent her quiet hours creating beauty from simple threads. But he is not the same person who left this place 3 years ago, and he wonders if she will recognize the man he has become. The door opens before he can knock, as if she has been waiting for this moment, as if some part of her has been listening for his footsteps every day since he left. She stands in the doorway, her hair now more silver than brown, her face marked by the gentle lines that come from years of smiling, of worrying, of loving deeply and without reservation. For a moment, they simply look at each other, mother and son, separated by 3 years, but connected by bonds that neither time nor distance can break. Then she smiles, and in that smile, he sees everything he has missed: the warmth of unconditional love, the security of belonging, the sweet familiarity of being known completely by another human being. "My son," she says, her voice carrying all the joy and relief and pride that words cannot contain. "You have come home." They embrace in the doorway, and he breathes in the scent of her hair, still carrying the fragrance of lavender and olive oil, still smelling like safety and comfort and everything that means home. She is smaller than he remembered, more fragile, but her arms around him are still strong, still capable of holding all the love in the world. "Let me look at you," she says, stepping back but keeping her hands on his shoulders. Her eyes search his face, taking in the changes that 3 years have wrought. The beard that now covers his jaw, the deeper lines around his eyes, the quiet strength that sits in his features like settled dust. "You are different," she says softly. "Older, yes, but something more. There is a peace in you now that was not there before." He nods, not trusting his voice to carry the weight of everything he wants to tell her. How can he explain the transformation that has taken place within him? How can he describe the way the mountains have taught him to listen to the silence, to find strength in gentleness, to understand that true power comes not from conquering, but from serving? She leads him into the house, and the familiar surroundings envelope him like a warm embrace. Everything is exactly as he left it. The wooden table where they shared so many meals, the stone floor worn smooth by generations of feet, the small altar where she keeps the household gods. But now these familiar objects seem precious in a way they never did before, touched with the poignancy of things that could be lost, that exist only in this moment, in this place, in this brief intersection of love and time. She has prepared his favorite meal: barley bread fresh from the oven, cheese made from goat's milk, honey from the hives in the hills above the city. The food tastes exactly as he remembers, but somehow more intense, more vivid, as if his time in the mountains has sharpened his ability to appreciate simple pleasures. They eat in comfortable silence, The only sounds the soft clink of clay bowls and the distant murmur of the city beyond their walls. She does not ask about his experiences. She seems to understand that some things cannot be spoken, that the deepest truths must be lived rather than described. Instead, she simply enjoys his presence, the miracle of having her son home again, safe and whole, and transformed by his journey. After the meal, they sit together in the courtyard, in the same spot where they said goodbye 3 years ago. The afternoon light slants through the olive trees, casting dancing shadows on the stone bench where they rest. The air is warm and still, carrying the scent of ripening fruit and the distant sound of children at play. "Tell me about the mountains," she says finally, her voice soft as a whisper. He considers how to begin, how to translate the ineffable experience of those 3 years into words that can be shared. "They taught me to listen," he says at last, "not just with my ears, but with my whole being. They taught me that strength comes from stillness, that true power flows from peace." She nods, her eyes bright with understanding. "And what did you hear when you learned to listen?" "I heard the voice of my own heart," he says, surprised by his own honesty. "I heard the wisdom of my ancestors speaking through the wind and the stones. I heard the sound of my own breathing, synchronized with the rhythm of the earth itself. I heard silence, real silence, the kind that holds all sounds within it, the kind that teaches you that you are never truly alone." They sit together as the sun begins to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. The familiar sounds of evening settle around them, the call of birds returning to their nests, the distant laughter of neighbors sharing their evening meal, the soft whisper of wind through the olive leaves. "I missed you," she says simply. And in those 3 words, he hears everything. The nights when she worried about his safety, the days when she looked toward the mountains and wondered if he was well, the faith that sustained her through the long months of not knowing. "I missed you too," he replies, and means it completely. The mountains taught him many things, but they could not teach him the irreplaceable comfort of being loved unconditionally, of having a place in the world where he is valued simply for being himself. As darkness falls, she lights the small oil lamp, and they continue to sit together in the gentle circle of its light. The night sounds of the city create a soft backdrop to their quiet conversation. The distant music of a flute, the murmur of voices from neighboring courtyards, the gentle sounds of a community settling into sleep. "Will you stay?" she asks. And he hears in her voice both hope and the willingness to let him go if that is what he needs. "For a while," he says, and sees her smile in the lamplight. "The mountains will always be with me now, but this is my home and you are my family. I want to learn how to bring what I discovered there into the life I live here." She reaches out and takes his hand, her fingers warm and familiar against his palm. "That is the greatest wisdom," she says, "to learn how to carry peace within you, no matter where you go or what you face. The mountains have given you a great gift, but it is only valuable if you can share it with others." They sit in comfortable silence as the night deepens around them, mother and son, connected by bonds that are stronger than time, deeper than distance. Above them, the stars emerge one by one, the same stars he watched from his ledge high in the mountains, the same stars that have guided travelers home for countless generations. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities to live what he has learned, to be the kind of man the mountains have taught him to be. But tonight, he is simply here, in this moment, in this place, surrounded by love and touched by grace, carrying within himself the stillness of high places and the warmth of human connection. The lamp burns low, casting dancing shadows on the walls, and finally they rise to go inside. As he prepares for sleep in his childhood bed, he feels the presence of the mountains still with him, not as a memory, but as a living reality, a source of strength and peace that will sustain him through whatever lies ahead. He closes his eyes and listens to the night sounds of the city, but underneath them all, he can still hear the eternal silence of the high places, the whisper of wind through ancient pines, the deep breathing of the earth itself. He is home, but he carries within himself the vast spaces of the mountains, the quiet wisdom of solitude, the profound peace of learning to be still. Sleep comes gently, like a blessing, and his dreams are filled with starlight and stone, with the sound of his mother's laughter and the eternal silence of snow-covered peaks, with the understanding that home is not just a place, but a way of being in the world, a way of carrying love and peace wherever the path may lead. The years have flowed like water over stones, each one carrying away something while leaving something else behind. Alexios stands now in the same courtyard where he once sat as a child, listening to his mother's stories, where he later embraced her before leaving for the mountains, where he returned as a young man changed by solitude and silence. But tonight, the courtyard holds a different kind of peace, the deep, settled quiet of a life lived fully, of lessons learned and wisdom earned through the patient accumulation of days. His hair is silver now, touched by the same moonlight that illuminated his childhood dreams. His hands, resting on the stone wall that borders the small garden, are weathered but gentle, marked by years of service, of protecting what mattered, of building rather than destroying. The olive trees that sheltered his youth have grown taller, their branches reaching toward the stars with the same patient aspiration they showed when he was 7 years old, running between their trunks with the boundless energy of a child who believed the world was infinite. The city below has changed, as cities do. New buildings have risen, old ones have crumbled and been rebuilt. Generations of families have lived and loved and passed into memory, but the essential rhythms remain the same. The morning songs of birds, the evening calls of mothers to their children, the eternal dance of seasons turning one into another, each bringing its own gifts and taking its own portion of time. His mother has been gone for 5 years now, her passing as gentle as her living, like a candle flame that simply exhales itself into the darkness. She died in her sleep, on a night when the olive trees were heavy with fruit, when the air was sweet with the promise of harvest. He held her hand as she breathed her last, and in that moment he felt the completion of a circle, the child who had once been comforted by her presence, now offering comfort in return, the student who had learned love from her example, now becoming the teacher of that same love. The house is quieter now, but not empty. It holds within its stone walls the accumulated warmth of all the life that has been lived here. The conversations shared around the wooden table, the meals prepared with careful attention, the moments of silence that spoke louder than words. Sometimes, in the evening light, he can almost hear the echo of her laughter, the whisper of her voice telling stories of ancestors and heroes, of ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives simply by choosing love over fear, service over selfishness. Tonight, as he has done every night for the past 30 years, he climbs to the roof of the house to watch the stars emerge. The wooden ladder creaks under his weight, but it is a friendly sound, familiar and comforting. The flat roof provides a perfect vantage point for observing the sky, and he has arranged a simple cushion there, worn smooth by years of use, where he can sit in meditation as the day transforms into night. The city spreads below him like a map of human dreams. The yellow glow of oil lamps in windows, the red flicker of cooking fires, the silver threads of streams carrying mountain water to the sea. He can see the training ground where he first learned to move with the wind, where young boys still gather each morning to discover the relationship between strength and gentleness. The sight fills him with quiet satisfaction. the knowledge that the lessons continue, that each generation finds its own way to the same eternal truths. In the distance, the mountains rise like ancient guardians, their peaks touched with starlight. He cannot see the meadow where he spent 3 years learning to listen to silence, but he carries it with him always, not as a memory, but as a living presence, a source of strength and peace that has sustained him through all the seasons of his life. The mountains taught him that true power comes from stillness, that real strength flows from the center of being. And these lessons have guided him through every challenge, every decision, every moment when he had to choose between the easy path and the right one. The stars begin to appear one by one like old friends returning from a long journey. He knows their names, their patterns, their stories, knowledge gained through decades of watching, of learning to read the sky like a book written in light. The Great Bear turns slowly around the North Star, eternal and unchanging, a reminder that some things endure beyond the brief span of human life. The 7 sisters dance together in their cosmic ballet, teaching patience and the beauty of harmony. As he settles into his meditation, his breathing synchronizes with the rhythm of the night wind moving through the olive trees. This is his time, his daily return to the silence that lives at the center of all things. The sounds of the city fade into background music, the distant conversation of neighbors, the soft lullaby of a mother singing to her child, the gentle murmur of the night watch making their rounds. These sounds do not disturb his peace, but deepen it, reminding him that he is part of a larger symphony, a single note in the vast composition of human life. His mind drifts to the young men he has trained over the years, the boys who came to him seeking to understand what it means to be a warrior in the deepest sense. He taught them what the mountains taught him, that true strength comes from service, that real courage is the willingness to be vulnerable, that the greatest victories are won not through conquest, but through the patient cultivation of wisdom and compassion. Some of those young men now have sons of their own, boys who carry within them the seeds of the same lessons, the same eternal questions about what it means to be strong and gentle, powerful and peaceful. The circle continues, as it always has, as it always will. Each generation discovers for itself the truth that cannot be taught, but only lived, that we are all connected, all part of the same vast tapestry of existence, all responsible for adding our own thread to the pattern. A shooting star streaks across the sky, brilliant and brief, leaving a trail of light that fades even as he watches. He makes no wish, asks for no favor from the cosmos. The mountains taught him that the greatest gift is simply to witness beauty without trying to possess it, to experience wonder without needing to understand it completely. The shooting star is perfect in its momentary existence, requiring nothing from him but appreciation, asking nothing but that he be present to its brief and glorious flight. The night deepens, and the stars grow brighter, as if the darkness gives them permission to shine more fully. He thinks of his father, whom he never knew but whose presence he has felt throughout his life, in the wooden cup that still holds his morning water, in the knife that still hangs at his belt, in the very fact that he exists, that he has been given the gift of consciousness, of choice, of the ability to add his own note to the eternal song. He thinks of his mother, whose love shaped him more than any training, whose gentle strength gave him the foundation to build his life upon. She is gone now, but not really gone. Her influence lives on in every kind word he speaks, every moment of compassion he offers, every choice he makes to build rather than destroy. Death, he has learned, is not the end of love, but its transformation, its release into the larger world where it can touch lives yet unborn. The wind carries the scent of the olive groves, sweet and familiar, mixed with the salt tang of the distant sea. This is the smell of home, the fragrance of the place where he learned to be human, where he discovered that the greatest adventures are not found in distant lands, but in the depths of the human heart, in the endless exploration of what it means to live with purpose and peace. A night bird calls from the olive trees, its voice pure and haunting in the darkness. The sound carries him back to his childhood, to nights when he lay in his small bed, listening to the mysterious voices of the darkness, wondering what secrets they might reveal. Now he knows that the secret was always the same, that life is precious, that love is eternal, that the greatest wisdom is to be fully present to each moment, to each breath, to each heartbeat that connects us to the vast rhythm of existence. The meditation deepens, and the boundaries between Alexios and the night begin to dissolve. He is the wind moving through the olive trees, the starlight falling on the city below, the ancient stones that have witnessed so much human joy and sorrow. He is the breath of the sleeping child, the dream of the tired laborer, the hope of the young mother nursing her baby. He is all of these things and none of them, a temporary arrangement of consciousness that will one day return to the source from which it came. But tonight, in this moment, he is simply a man sitting on a roof under the stars, grateful for the gift of being alive, for the opportunity to have loved and been loved, to have served something greater than himself. The mountains taught him that true immortality is not the continuation of the individual self, but the contribution that self makes to the eternal flow of life. The way each person's choices ripple outward through time, affecting lives yet unborn. The night watch calls the hour, their voices echoing through the narrow streets. It is late, but he is not ready to go inside yet. These moments under the stars are precious, sacred time, when the veil between the visible and invisible worlds grows thin, when the eternal truths that guide all existence become almost tangible. He thinks of the young men who will come after him, the boys who are even now dreaming in their beds, unaware that they too will one day stand where he stands, looking up at these same stars, asking the same eternal questions about purpose and meaning, and the nature of true strength. Some will go to the mountains, as he did, to learn the lessons of solitude and silence. Others will find their teachers in different places, in the workshop of a skilled craftsman, in the words of a wise elder, in the face of a beloved child. But all will eventually discover what he has learned, that the greatest warrior is not one who conquers others, but one who conquers himself. Not one who accumulates power, but one who learns to use power wisely. Not one who seeks glory, but one who finds satisfaction in service. These truths are written in the stars, carved in the stones of the mountains, whispered in the wind through the olive trees. They are eternal and unchanging, waiting for each generation to rediscover them, to make them their own. A meteor shower begins, a cascade of light falling across the darkness like tears of joy. The ancient Greeks believed that shooting stars were the souls of heroes returning to visit the earth, and watching them now, Alexios can almost believe it. Perhaps his mother is there among them, and his father, and all the ancestors who came before. Their love transformed into light, their wisdom scattered across the sky like seeds of possibility. The shower continues for nearly an hour, each streak of light a reminder that beauty is everywhere, that wonder is the natural state of a heart that has learned to be still. He watches without trying to count them, without making wishes or asking for favors. The mountains taught him that the greatest gifts are given freely, without expectation of return, and that the proper response to such gifts is simple gratitude, pure appreciation for the miracle of existence itself. As the meteor shower fades, the ordinary stars seem to shine even brighter, as if they too are part of the celebration, as if the entire universe is participating in this moment of cosmic joy. He feels connected to it all, to the distant suns burning in the darkness, to the planets spinning in their ancient orbits, to the vast spaces between the stars where new worlds are being born. This is what the mountains taught him, that separation is an illusion, that at the deepest level, all things are one. All beings are connected by invisible threads of love and compassion and shared existence. The warrior who truly understands this fights not to destroy, but to protect, not to conquer, but to serve, not to divide, but to unite. The night air grows cooler, and he pulls his woolen cloak around his shoulders. The garment is old now, worn soft by years of use, but it still carries the scent of the mountains, the memory of nights spent under stars that seemed close enough to touch. He wrapped himself in this same cloak during his 3 years of training, and it has become a symbol of the journey, a tangible reminder of the lessons learned in solitude and silence. The city below him sleeps peacefully, its inhabitants trusting in the protection of men like him, warriors who have learned that true strength comes from the willingness to sacrifice for others, to stand guard while others rest, to bear the burden of responsibility without complaint. It is a sacred trust, this duty to protect the innocent, to preserve the peace that allows children to dream, and lovers to embrace, and artists to create beauty. He thinks of the battles he has fought, not many, but each one significant, each one a test of the principles he learned in the mountains. He fought not with anger, but with sorrow, not with hatred, but with compassion for those who had chosen the path of destruction. He fought to protect, not to conquer, to preserve life rather than take it, to create space for peace rather than expand territory. The mountains taught him that a true warrior grieves for his enemies as much as for his friends, understanding that every life lost is a diminishment of the whole, every death a closing of possibilities. He has carried this understanding through every conflict, every moment when he had to choose between mercy and vengeance, between wisdom and expedience. The stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, and he feels the deep satisfaction of a life lived according to principle, of choices made from the center of being rather than from the surface of desire. He has not been perfect. No human is. But he has been true, true to the lessons of the mountains, true to the love of his mother, true to the values that make life worth living. The night wind carries the sound of the sea, distant but constant, a reminder that all things flow toward the same destination, that all rivers eventually find their way to the ocean. His life, too, is flowing toward its own completion, and he faces this truth without fear, with the same peaceful acceptance he learned while sitting in meditation on the mountain meadow. Death, when it comes, will be simply another transition, another step in the eternal journey of consciousness. The mountains taught him that nothing is ever truly lost, that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transformed. His love will continue. His influence will ripple outward through time. His example will inspire others to seek their own path to wisdom and peace. The meteor shower has ended, but the memory of it remains, written in light across the darkness of his mind. He rises slowly, his old bones protesting, but his spirit still strong, still connected to the eternal source of all strength. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities to live what he has learned, to be the kind of man the mountains taught him to be. But tonight, this moment under the stars is complete in itself. He has witnessed wonder, felt gratitude, touched the eternal through the simple act of being present. The mountains are with him still, not as a memory, but as a living reality, a source of strength and peace that will sustain him through whatever lies ahead. He climbs down the ladder carefully, his feet finding the familiar rungs, his hands gripping the worn wood. The house welcomes him with its accumulated warmth, its memories of love and laughter, and the simple joy of being alive. He prepares for sleep with the same mindful attention he brings to all things, grateful for the gift of another day, another night, another opportunity to participate in the great mystery of existence. As he lies in his bed, the same bed where he slept as a child, he can hear the night sounds of the city, the distant cry of a baby, the murmur of the night watch, the gentle sigh of the wind through the olive trees. These sounds do not disturb his peace, but deepen it, reminding him that he is part of a community, a family, a species that has learned to care for one another across the vast loneliness of space. His breathing slows, synchronizing with the rhythm of the night, and he drifts toward sleep, carrying with him the image of the meteor shower, the memory of light cascading across darkness, the eternal promise that beauty and wonder are always available to those who know how to look, how to listen, how to be still. The stars continue their ancient dance above the sleeping city. And somewhere in the mountains, the stone circle waits for the next group of young men who will come seeking to understand what it means to be strong and gentle, powerful and peaceful. The cycle continues, as it always has, as it always will. Each generation finding its own way to the same eternal truths, each individual adding their own thread to the vast tapestry of human experience. And in the peaceful darkness of a life lived fully, an old warrior sleeps, his dreams filled with starlight and stone, with the sound of his mother's laughter and the eternal silence of snow-covered peaks, with the understanding that home is not just a place, but a way of being in the world, a way of carrying love and peace wherever the path may lead.